Hello, everybody. Welcome into the Apples and Ginos Fantasy Hockey Podcast, the podcast you come to when you're finally ready to take fantasy hockey seriously. My name is Nibbelink. I'm the creator of Apples and Ginos, originator of the Zero G draft strategy, and in this podcast, I'm going to break down the most puzzling players league-wide as determined by the Apples and Ginos Discord server. Let's get it. And welcome on in, everyone. It wouldn't be a stream without me completely forgetting to share my screen, would it? Well, we got that fixed, and we're ready to get to biz. Welcome on in to another Puzzling Players. I apologize for missing last week. I was off on a work trip. I was in Houston. And couldn't make it work, unfortunately, but hopefully me answering people in the Discord got people the answers they needed on those most puzzling players. Tried to answer as many as I could. We got comments already. Tommy Jones is in here. Would you trade Protas for Velarde? Interesting use of capitalization, but yes, I would trade Protas for Velarde, given your setup there. Blake wants to hear some more Robert Thomas. I got to be honest, I think there's only like 2 Matchbox 20 songs that I actually know. The one is Unwell, and the other one is the 3 a.m. song. It's 3 a.m., I must be lonely. That one, that's the one. Last one says, what's good, goats? I have not been feeling very great as of late. I'm going 0-4 in the APL. That is where I'm at right now. Lost by less than half a point this last matchup. I had some real close ones, but that's going to be a tough hole to climb out of. I don't know. I honestly don't remember the last time that I've been 0-4 to start a season in any league, so I'm going to have to see if I can dig myself out of that hole against some of the toughest competition there in Tier 1 of the APL. Roman wants to hear about Ehlers. Ehlers is on the list, so we will get there for sure. Dave's in here with the hashtag 0G. Appreciate you. Work. Fantasy hockey is work. That's good. Unwell is a good song. I don't mind that song, to be honest. Blake really doesn't like Matchbox 20. I'm pretty ambivalent. There are 2 songs that I know of. I would listen to them on the radio, but I have no other further opinions on the matter. Cindery, would you trade Barzal for Point? Yes. Yeah, I would much rather have Point. Who the heck requested J-Rob? He's been amazing to start. Yeah, I guess like the underlines especially are terrific, but he's under a point per game, which is probably what you wanted, so I can understand it. Uncle Benz wants to know how it's going. It's going well. It could be going better. The Leafs are down 2-0 to the Pittsburgh Penguins, and they have not had a great start, so they need to get their butts in gear. A comment on Mason McTavish, why he isn't getting in on the goals maybe later on in the list. Yeah, I think he's not on the top power play, and he, as the center, has more of the defensive responsibility on that line with a rookie in Seneca and a guy who's just built to rush the puck in Cutter Gauthier. And so they're kind of letting Gauthier be, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a stylistic comparable, something like the Ehlers or like the Nylander, the guy who like breaks the zone with speed and is constantly getting away and creating rush chances. They're letting him be that, and McTavish is stuck kind of being the guy behind the play. And so that's probably a bit of it, but also probably just a bit unlucky if we're being honest. Reese's Pieces, don't forget about your loss to me as well in the Experts League. Yeah, thanks for reminding me. My team, at one point last week, I had 18 games played by players on my team, and I had 21 points. So that's how that particular matchup went. I had a rough week last week. Just all my guys fell completely asleep. It was a weird week, to be sure. I'm late, but Brayden Point and the Breadman, I believe both of those are on the list. So we will get there. No problem. Why don't we get on into it? Before we do, I see 43 43 people. Goodness, I can't speak. 43 people in here right now. If you could leave a like on the video, that actually does a lot more than you think it does. So go ahead and hit that like button as we dig in on JT Miller, most requested player in the Apples and Ginos Discord server this week. Has 1 goal, 4 points in his last 5 games, still over 21.5 minutes average time on ice, 117th shots per 60, 18th individual expected goals for per 60. So that's looking pretty good for JT Miller. 28th Corsi for per 60 and 63rd in on ice expected goals for per 60. On the season, he's got 8 points in 13 games. That's a 50-point pace for JT Miller. Yeah, that's not going to cut it. I think everybody understands that. I think JT Miller understands that. There is some good news. Vincent Trocheck was out on the ice in a red jersey, not going through power play work, so probably not close to returning here, but that is good news. That should allow the Rangers to balance their lineup a little bit more, balance the top 6 a little bit more. They were trying to run, and they're still running it today, Panarin, Zibanejad, Miller, like just completely loading up the top line. And that should be good, theoretically, for fantasy for those guys, but it often doesn't really work for the long term, and so I'd be worried about that long-term sustainability there. But overall, JT Miller's underlines look really good here. 4 points in the last 5. Trocheck on the way. If JT Miller is being shopped by anyone in your league who has him, if anybody is really worried about what's going on with the Rangers, I would definitely be interested in acquiring some JT Miller. I think he's going to be just fine. And I don't really feel any reason at this point based on what we've seen. Is it great that the Rangers have had a really poor start here? Obviously not. Would I wish that Mike Sullivan would come in and instantly cure all their ills? Yes, of course I would. But that's not the way it goes all the time, and I'm willing to be a little bit patient with that. It seems like a lot of fantasy managers aren't. At the beginning of the season, I had him for 29 goals and 82 points. Honestly, as a pace rest of season, because what's in the past is in the past, folks. We can't change what's in the past. He's, only got 8 points in 13 games. We can't change that. But from here on out, it would honestly still surprise me if he wasn't close to, if not a point per game player. So I'm still quite in on JT Miller. Next up, Jackson LaCombe, 3 assists in his last 5 games, including a beauty there yesterday. Diving play, intercepts the pass, terrific pinch, reads the play perfectly, intercepts the pass, dives, makes a perfect pass while diving, sliding on his stomach to Frank Vetrano, who roofs it. Beautiful play yesterday if you didn't get a chance to see it. Still over 25 minutes a night, 49 shots per 60, 66th individual expected goals for per 60, 22nd in on-ice expected goals for per 60. I still think the world of Jackson LaCombe personally. I think these points are going to come. At the beginning of the year, I had him down for, 52 points as a pace, and honestly, I think he's going to hit that on the year still. Anaheim is just playing way too well as a team offensively anyway. Yeah, they've been a little bit of a roller coaster back and forth team, but in terms of the offense that they're generating, it's all there, and LaCombe is going to get his piece, and I think sooner rather than later. Philip Forsberg next up, 3 goals, 5 points in his last 5, just over 18.5 minutes average time on ice in those 5 games, 160th shots per 60, 223rd individual expected goals for per 60. That's not what we're used to seeing from Philip Forsberg. We're used to him being up amongst the league leaders in those 2 categories. He is 30th in on-ice expected goals for per 60, so maybe just doing a little bit more facilitation than usual. And trying to generate offense in a different way since Nashville's start has not been good. I still really like Forsberg. I still think that even with Nashville not performing well, I think he can be quite good. I had him for 78 points at the start of the year with a bunch of shots and a bunch of hits. I still think that's kind of my outlook moving forward. If Nashville really gets into it and they start selling off everybody left, right, and center, and it ends up just being Forsberg left with Svechkov and Bunting at the end of the year, then maybe I'm changing my tune at that point. But I still think at this point, nothing has really changed in my assessment of Forsberg moving forward. He's actually gotten a little bit more ice time on average than I had him projected for. I had him projected for 18.5. And honestly, if Andrew Brunette gets let go at some point here, I don't know how likely that is. There hasn't really been any steam about it at this point, but even if that does happen, I don't know that that would be a bad thing for Forsberg. So all around, I just feel like he's a pretty safe player. And even if it's not like the high end scenario, like even if he scores at a 70-point pace rest of season, I still think he's going to be pretty good for fantasy purposes. So I'm not that worried about him overall. Dylan Holloway next up, 1 goal, 4 points in his last 5 games, over 19.5 minutes average time on ice, and close to 19.5 minutes average time on ice on the season. That's actually a pretty nice underrated number that we're getting early here on Dylan Holloway. I projected him for 63 points with the idea that he was going to get 17.5 minutes average time on ice. So you can imagine if the Blues can get their offense figured out a little bit more here, I really do think Holloway has a ton of ceiling here. And you're seeing a little bit of it here with 4 points in these last 5 games, even with things not going so well. 109th in shots per 60, 231st individual expected goals for per 60, and 57th in on-ice expected goals for per 60. So some better underlying numbers starting to creep up there for Dylan Holloway. You'd still like to see a little bit more in terms of that individual expected goals for number, but things are definitely trending in the right direction here. And so I'm pretty excited about Holloway. Rob Thomas back in the fold should only mean better things for the Blues lineup overall. And I think it'll be sooner rather than later that the Blues really do start to figure it out offensively. Whether or not the goaltending really gets things going again, that's really been their Achilles heel so far in the season, in my estimation. But yeah, still very high on Holloway. Still wouldn't move too much off that 63-point projection that I had for him at the beginning of the year. I feel like I've said the same thing about the first 4 players. Let's talk about Nikolaj Ehlers here, though. 3 assists in his last 5 games, just over 60.5 minutes average time on ice, which is a little bit scary. Obviously, we know Rod Brind'Amour is one of these coaches who will just not let some players have the ice when we feel like they should. So that part is a bit scary. Ehlers 228th in shots per 60 and 351st in individual expected goals for per 60. That is a weird number, no doubt about it. Because Ehlers, if anything, has always been a consistent shot and expected goal for producer. 183rd in on-ice expected goals for per 60. He has no goals and just 4 assists in 11 games to start the year. Really, really weird numbers for Ehlers. Still, like, I've watched a few Carolina games and I still can pick him out instantly when he's on the ice. He moves so quick. He's got the puck on a string. He's still, like, to the eye appears to be doing all the right things. I think it's just taking some time to fit in a new system. It's a very, very different system there in Carolina to what Winnipeg was playing, and different role, different players to learn how to play alongside. He's playing with really good players for the first time, and yeah, that should be a good thing overall for him over the course of the season. But sometimes when you're not the guy who has to have the puck on his stick all of the time for your team to have a chance to score, that's just a different way of playing for Nikolaj Ehlers. So yeah, I mean, I had him for 78 points at the beginning of the year, kind of thinking that this would be a really nice marriage with Aho and Jarvis on that top line, and it hasn't really come to fruition that way. But I'm not dropping Ehlers. I've had a lot of those questions. I'm not dropping him. The potential is just too high. Still getting that top line and top power play deployment, and I think he will continue to get that moving forward. They're invested into him for a lot of money for a lot of years at this point. It would be very surprising for him to get moved out for any sustained period of time. So overall, I'm not thinking about moving off Ehlers. Am I like excitedly going out and trying to acquire him based on this really slow start with bad underlying numbers? No. But if I have him, I'm not thinking about dropping him just yet. I think we just have to be patient here. It's 11 games with a brand new team. He's only played with one other team prior in his entire career. Very different system. I think we have to give him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt, and I think things will turn around for Ehlers. I think he's just too talented for this to stay this way. Let's get back to the comments. We had a bunch while we were talking there. Let's talk about this. Roman, can you do goalies or just skaters? Goalies are fine. DJ, request to add Morgan Rielly to do the list if there's time. D5 and holding on due to the power play role. Yeah, we can throw Morgan Rielly in here. Let's do it. Let's see what we get on Morgan Rielly. 1 assist in his last 4 games here, over 20 minutes a night. 164 shots per 60, 11th in individual scoring chances for per 60. So some of those chances are coming in tight, but 180th in individual expected goals for per 60. That basically means that he's not hitting the net when he's getting the opportunities. 5th in Corsi for per 60 and 7th in on ice expected goals for per 60. Underlying numbers are really nice for Morgan Rielly. I think he just started really hot and we got a little bit of regression here. So overall, I think he's still probably in that 50-ish point range. 50 to 55 points is probably the outcome for Rielly on the season if this current deployment kind of holds for the season. I don't think I would move too far off of that. I do think he looks better than I expected to start the year. And yeah, I think they don't have like a lot of options. I don't think they have the correct personnel to really go to a 5-forward power play. I don't really think Oliver Ekman-Larsson is a strong candidate to take away any power play time from Rielly unless he really like just disintegrates, and it really does seem like he's turned a bit of a page this year. It seems like Berube is allowing him as well, or encouraging him at least, to play his brand of offensive hockey a little bit more. I think it's all just shaping up to be a better season than I had originally thought for Morgan Rielly. I don't think this last little stretch of pucks not going in the net is going to change my mind too much about that. So yeah, 50 to 55 point Rielly, I think, is in the wheelhouse here. Reese's Piece is basically the bottom of my roster in my 10-team points with no hits or blocks. Who do we like rest of the season between Byfield and Pettersson? That is a tough one. Elias Pettersson, like, he's going to get the opportunity. Last 5 games, we see him here. He's got 2 goals and 4 points in his last 5 games, 22 minutes a night. 274 shots per 60, though. 244 individual expected goals for per 60. 247 on ice expected goals for per 60. I mean, it's really hard to get excited about anything really that's going on in Vancouver right now. It feels like Adam Foote might just be Jim Hiller 2.0 in terms of stifling offense in the name of trying to have more 1-goal losses than 2-goal losses at the end of the year. Yeah, I can't say that I'm all that excited about Byfield either. His underlying numbers are not great. He plays for Jim Hiller, which is the other bad, almost the other worst situation possible out there right now. So yeah, I can't say that I'm that excited about any of these potential, either of those potential options. I think I would stick with the preseason projection with Pettersson there. It does hurt him that there's no hits or blocks for sure. It's very close, I will say. Sports and Stocks, AM34 for Eichel, Cats Leagues, with goals, assists, power play points, shots on goal, and blocks. It's a valid conversation. I think that probably you would say at this point in the season that they're probably in the same tier. I think that's feels like a comfortable thing to say at this point in time with the limited info we have this early in the season. But I'm just not a fan of making these 1-for-1 trades. It's like, what are you... I don't know, like, are you really going to win that trade by enough? Like, you're just banking on such a narrow range of outcomes for you to actually win that trade. I just don't really like these 1-for-1, center for center. Like, I don't know. It just feels like you're not likely to come out some hugely ahead at the end of the day. And with blocks, like, that's what Matthews really does well, far and above most other forwards too, so you are getting something there. Armin, good to see you. Caleb traded Weegar and Zibanejad for Reinhart and a 10-man Bangers Cats with Pims. Was shopping Weegar since power play 1 uncertain, have 5D. Also had 3 Rangers, so didn't mind dealing Zibanejad. Thoughts? I'm pretty into that. I'll take Reinhart there, I think. Yeah, I don't mind it. Bangers Cats, obviously, that's Weegar's deal. But yeah, the offensive outlook is not great there for sure. So I think probably you're getting the best player in the deal there in Reinhardt, and you'll take that 9 times out of 10. Armin, thoughts on Lafreniere? Would you drop Elias Lindholm for him or Brendan? Benson. Okay, Benson. I was going through my mind. Who is Brendan? Benson. I'm not really into Lafreniere right now. His underlines don't look good. I think that Trocheck is probably going to bump him off that power play once he gets back. So, I mean, if you like, Lindholm is injured right now, so if you're holding Lindholm in a bench spot instead of an IR spot, then for sure I'd rather have a warm body than Lindholm not playing in a bench spot. So I guess in that case, yes, but I think I would take Zach Benson over him currently. Armin, Penguins going to ruin the trade deadline. Rust even less likely to be moved now. Yeah, I mean, as long as the Pens are winning, I don't think they will move on from Rust or Raquel when he's back. So, yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. Carter, what would you think about acquiring Rasmus Anderson in an ESPN Standard League? Who would you be willing to part with? Toffoli, Demidov, Monahan, Mishkov, DeBrusk, Verhaeghe, Lafreniere. DeBrusk, Lafreniere for sure. Probably Toffoli. Probably Verhaeghe at this point. I still want to hang on to Verhaeghe. I got a soft spot for Verhaeghe. It's hard for me to give him up. But yeah, definitely any DeBrusk and Lafreniere for sure. Probably Toffoli. Maybe Verhaeghe. What's your rest of season projection for Konecny? How would you rank him, Nichushkin, and Barzal and Bangers Cats? That's an interesting one for sure. Let's put them all side by side here so we can get a good look at it. Nichushkin, Konecny, and Barzal. So Nichushkin and Konecny both have 4 points from the last 5. Barzal's got 2 in his last 4. All of them are skating 19 to 20 minutes, basically. Strong underlying numbers for Nichushkin and Konecny, but not exceptional. Barzal's never looks good in the individual stuff, but the on-ice stuff always looks exceptional. It's a good question. And Bangers Cats, that obviously takes away from Barzal a little bit there. And probably that ends up with you leaning back towards... I think Konechny's the safest guy for sure. I think Nichushkin probably has a little bit more upside. Yeah, rest of season projection-wise, I don't think it would change too much from where I had him at the beginning of the year. I had him for 75 points, 30 goals, 75 points at the beginning of the year with about this level of ice time that he's getting. So, yeah, I think it would still be in that 70 to 75 point range for Konechny. I think Konechny's kind of like the guy. I think he's the safest guy here, so I think I would probably go that route. Armin, thoughts on Calgary? How did they look yesterday? Parekh have long-term value. Depends how long-term we're talking. I think Elliot Friedman was actually talking about this on 32 Thoughts today. Like Parekh, it really seems like Calgary was like, there's no reason to put him down to junior. We know he can crush junior. That's not going to help him. So even if he is just on the bench, they think that he's doing better just being in Calgary and learning from professionals, basically. So, yeah, I want to believe. I want to believe that Parekh's going to do a lot of things here this year. I think he's immensely talented. It's getting... I don't know if Ryan Huska's the guy to turn him loose, though. I don't think Huska is in that Martin St. Louis mold to just like let his super offensive but maybe defensively challenged player just go out there and do what he does. I think that could change, though, over the course of the season, especially if Calgary continues to struggle. If they get into January and they're like 10 points out of a playoff spot already, then it's going to be harder and harder for them not to just play Parekh a ton of minutes. And so that's probably where the value lies with Parekh, is later on in the season at this point. Carter, currently only have 4D. We start 5. Settings are 2 goals for 2, assists for 1, power play points and blocks for 0.5, shots and goal and hits for 0.1. If you're not familiar, that was for the previous one. Yeah, no, I think my previous statement stands there. Is Ehlers a drop yet? Probably threw that in while I was still talking about him, but I am not dropping him yet. Nazar looking better, 10 shots on goal last 2 games. Yeah, I still like Nazar. He kind of had the really hot start and then he cooled off. I think baseline expectation is still 60-ish points. Really good streamer, maybe a hold in some leagues. Any players or teams that you've changed your projections on by now? Yeah, tons. I mean, that's kind of the point of this episode, to be honest, is to go through and talk about the ones that have changed and the ones that haven't. So, yeah, that's what we're doing right here. Austin Dixon, safe to drop Sam Bennett in a 10-team points league that counts hits. I mean, define safe, but in a 10-teamer, I think you're going to find plenty of other options that are equivalent to Sam Bennett in a 10-teamer. Can the Blues decor be summarized a bit, I think is what you're going for there. You said a but. Fowler, Falk, Broberg, long-term, who's best for fantasy? And really, it's whoever's on the top power play unit is probably who you want. Right now, that's Falk, actually, which is kind of interesting. I picked up Falk in a couple of places. St. Louis has a 4-game week this week, and so I'm kind of into that, but don't think that any of them are going to be like fantasy studs this year, if that's what we're asking here. So, yeah, I think it's still Falk and then probably Fowler because he's still getting power play too. Broberg is, I think he's an interesting player. The skating ability is really intriguing. I don't know if he's got the hockey sense to really put it all together and be like a 50-plus point defenseman, but if Broberg ever got power play 1, it would be a smash ad for me just to see. I just don't know if that's ever going to happen. Is Ovi cooked? We are going to be talking about Ovechkin very, very soon. Trade help, please, for Jer, Kyle Connor, or Mikko Rantanen. Interesting one. Shorthanded points helps Connor. Blocks and hits helps neither, really. Yeah, I think they're equivalent. Again, this is probably a deal that I just don't feel like I have to make in either direction. Like, what am I really winning here? I guess if Connor is left wing only and Rantanen is left wing, right wing, and you need that flexibility, then maybe it's worth it to go to Rantanen there. But yeah, it feels like 50 cents in one hand and half a dollar in the other. Thoughts on Stolar's poor performance so far? Will the split be 50-50 when Well returns? Yeah, Stolar's has not been that great. I think that's been a little bit underrated. Nobody has really been talking about it, but I don't think he's been very good. And I fully expect that the split will be basically 50-50 when Well returns. How many D do you usually roster if you have 4 slots? Usually 4. Sometimes in tougher streaming weeks, it's easier to stream defenseman for that week, and then I'll go 5, but usually 4 and a 4D. Hey Nate, 10-team Cats redraft, goals, assists, power play points, shots on goal, hits. Pick 1 defenseman, Luke Hughes, Jones, Carlson. From that list, it's probably Jones still. Same league, hold two forwards, sorry. I was trying to figure out what FW meant. Mitchkov, Will Smith, Marchessault, Hagee, Pinto, Bennett. Oh, goodness. Hold 2 of those. Will Smith, I'm hanging on to. I want to say Verhaeghe. Honestly, like, it's one big tier there. I'm hanging on to Will Smith and then, honestly, flip a coin for the others, to be honest. Thanks, Nate. Love listening to Puzzling Players stream during my commute. Keeps me sane when my players are ice cold. I wish I could do this for myself then. That sounds like it's very relaxing. Would you trade Horvat for JT Miller in a points league? Yes, I would. Sorry, so Elias Lindholm or Benson on IR and long-term standard Cats with hits and plus minus. I mean, if you have IR, then yeah, stash them. If you don't, then I don't think you have to hang on to either of those guys because there will be lots of, if you don't have IR spots, then players like that will show up on waiver wires a lot. So yeah. Steve, if you get time, curious about Tage Thompson or Dahlin. Buffalo seems better this year. Wonder if their stars are showing out under the hood too. We could take a quick look there. Tage and Dahlin. Tage has 4 goals, 6 points in his last 5, over 19 minutes a night. Dahlin has a goal and 4 points in his last 5, almost 24 minutes a night. The underlying numbers are really good. Yeah. Tage is 3rd in shots per 60, 5th individual expected goals for per 60, 73rd on ice expected goals for per 60. Dahlin, 23rd in shots per 60, 25th individual expected goals for per 60, 27th in on ice expected goals for per 60. So, yeah, they are definitely showing up. Everyone running in, make sure to like and subscribe. Appreciate you, Steve. Thoughts on Lundell in a points league? Do you think he will hit a 60, 65 point season? It depends. I think he's got a good shot at it, though. I think like he's been getting 20 minutes a night. It depends what happens to his power play time for sure. When Tkachuk comes back, when they finally get healthy, yeah, definitely matters what happens there. So that would be the one caveat. I don't think anybody can say for certain what's going to happen there at this point. So that's the caveat. But if it stays the way it is, then yeah, I think it's definitely possible. Thoughts on Binnington? He's goalie. Goalies are unpredictable. St. Louis's goalies right now are both just putrid. I think he'll be better at some point, but I'm not interested in rostering him right now. All right, we made it through all the comments. We're back to the list. Where did we leave off? Seth Jones, 3 assists, 5 points in his last 5, almost 24 minutes a night still. Some really weird underlying stats here for Seth Jones. So he's 172nd amongst all defensemen in shots per 60 over the last 5 games, but 14th in individual scoring chances 4 per 60, and 131st in individual expected goals 4 per 60. So the chances are there. He just has not been able to put them on net and keep them, turn those dangerous chances into anything tangible. Still 15th in on ice expected goals 4 per 60. So it's a great environment still for Seth Jones. I think he's suffering from a bit of this lack of finishing that's plaguing Florida currently. So yeah, I think long term it's still going to be better for Seth Jones than it is currently. But yeah, might not be great basically until they really figure that thing out. Maybe until Tkachuk comes back. Zbuium and Sam Rinzel to me are kind of two sides of the same coin a little bit here. Buium has 2 points in his last 5, came off the top power play. I didn't see any updates in practice today. Let me just double check that for Buium. This is from today. Yeah, they practiced today, but we're not getting actual power play lines. So if neither of these, so Rinzel is still on the power play, but it's getting like the 17-minute a night treatment as well. His underlying numbers look better, which is not surprising because he's been on the top power play, right? So he's going to have a better chance at putting up some underlying numbers. If you're picking between the two, like long term, I'd still take Buium. I think you can still roster Rinzel this week for that 4 off night week that Chicago has. I still think you can probably roster Buium for a 4 game week for Minnesota as well if you're getting all 4 games. But they are right on the razor edge right now. If things continue to trend in the wrong direction for these guys, just ice time wise, then yeah, you're not going to be able to hang on to them. So that's where I'm at currently. And yeah, it's not where we want to be, but the rookie defenseman, and we've seen it so many times before, you just kind of have to be, you kind of have to understand that this is the way things go with rookie defensemen. Pettersson, we talked about here a little bit before. I think things can get a little bit better for Pettersson, but I don't think it's going to be too much. I think if I had the chance to redo my Vancouver projections at this point, like I had Pettersson for 73.5 points, I would knock him down into the 65-point range at this point, which is a pretty big drop this early in the season, and that's with more time on ice than I had him projected for so far this year. It's just very tough to see how Vancouver's going to generate offense in this current setup. They are lacking a lot of play driving up and down the lineup. Quinn Hughes coming back, yes, will help, but I don't know how much. So yeah, Pettersson for me is looking like a 65-point player rest of season at this point in time. I left a space here to remind myself to talk about Linus Ullmark, who was asked about in the Apples and Ginos Discord server. So there are some good things and some bad things. Ullmark is a volume goaltender. I'm going to go to the team XG data from 18 skaters here and just show you last 5 games in full season at all strengths. So Ottawa, in terms of the percentages, looks pretty good. They're 57.9% expected goals for percentage. Most of that is like they're in the top 12 in expected goals for, so that's a good number. And they're doing okay in terms of suppressing things going the other way, and it's been trending in that direction. So that's a good sign, is that the trend is in the right direction overall. The real question, though, is will that continue, for one, I guess. But can Ullmark get himself unraveled enough in the current setup there to where he can be an impact goaltender for fantasy? I think is a different question than can he be, just like acceptable. So he's not doing it right now. I've been hanging on to Ullmark in a spot where I have him, and I've been looking at him and looking at him and looking at him, and it's game by game at this point. I am fully willing to drop him. I would not blame anybody who has already dropped him. You could argue that I should have dropped him already, and I wouldn't have much of an argument against that. It depends who you're dropping for sure as well. Like if there's nobody better out there, like even if the overall numbers are not good, is his sheer volume enough in your particular setup where it's still better than anything you can get on the wire? That's a real question in some leagues. So real question to ask yourself as well, if you do have Ullmark and you're wondering if this thing's going to turn around. I do think it's going to turn around. I'm not convinced that it's worth it to just hang on and wait for it to turn around, because we don't know if that's going to turn around next week or if it's going to turn around in 3 months or when it's going to be. But yeah, most likely I think it does turn around, but it's getting to the point now where it's got to turn around soon, or I'm just not willing to hang on and figure out when it actually is going to. All right, Brayden Point has just 2 assists and no goals in his last 5 games, 18.5 minutes average time on ice. That being said, 112th in shots per 60 is actually not that bad for him. He's kind of not been that guy before for most of his career, and always been very efficient. 7th in individual expected goals for per 60, though, and 8th in on-ice expected goals for per 60. I think that everything's fine with Brayden Point. I think Kucherov was out for a bit. Kucherov back. They're going to get to biz, and Brayden Point is going to be just fine. If there's some kind of buy low window here on Brayden Point, then by all means, go ahead and get in there, send those trades, get him on your squad, because he's going to bounce back. He's one of the more sure things in all of fantasy, in my opinion. The problem with Brayden Point is that he often lacks the peripherals to like really pop. So yeah, is he really going to pop as much as some of these other guys who have more peripherals? Maybe not, but still very, very worth inquiring about if his manager in your league is getting tired of the 55-point pace that he's on through 12 games. Jason Robertson next up, 3 points, 3 all assists in his last 5 games. 21.5 minutes average time on ice is pretty nice. 18 shots per 60, 8th individual expected goals for per 60, 3rd on ice expected goals for per 60. Really, really, really good underlying numbers for Jason Robertson, including that time on ice. I'm excited about that. I would be buying Jason Robertson anywhere I could. I would be willing to give up a lot to go get him. I think it's really bullish what we're seeing in terms of the deployment and the underlying stats from Jason Robertson at the moment. And I do think it's mostly bad luck that he hasn't gotten a bunch more points at this point. Ovechkin, 1 goal, 1 assist, 2 points in his last 5 games. Almost 19 minutes average time on ice, though. A little bit of a tick up there from where he was last year. 165th shots per 60, 37th in individual scoring chances for per 60, 106 in individual expected goals for per 60, 119 in on-ice expected goals for per 60. I think he was missing Dylan Strome when Strome was out there for a bit, so I think that is something that's going to turn around a little bit for Ovechkin here. He's shooting just 7.4% on the season. I think things turn around for Ovechkin. Honestly, the thing that I'm most worried about with Ovechkin is the ice time. So it being higher actually has me a little bit more excited about Ovechkin. I don't think he's fallen off the cliff here. I think Strome was out for a bit, and he really does, at this stage in his career, he really does need that playmaking center to help him set up in the spot and get him the puck in those spots. So I think it's just a bit of a function of Strome being injured. and a bit of running cold at the same time. Timo Meier, 3 assists in his last 5 games, just over 16.5 minutes average time on ice, 51st shots per 60, 94th individual expected goals for per 60, 199 in on-ice expected goals for per 60. Timo Meier is a tough one. I mean, it's been years now he's been a tough one, I guess. But yeah, off the top power play again in favor of Dawson Mercer in the last game. And yeah, the underlying numbers are not as good as we had hoped for. I mean, on the season, he's got 10 points in 13 games, which is not that bad. He's still going to hit and he's still going to shoot. So those things will still be there for you. It's really a question of what were you really expecting from Timo Meier to start the year? Because, yeah, I don't think this is really that far off from where I had him. So what's this pace that he's on? He's on a 63-point pace. That's literally exactly what I projected him for at the start of the year. So, yeah, I think what you see is what you get a little bit with Timo Meier. I think this is what you should be expecting from him. So if you're not happy with your returns so far, then I think maybe you just thought Timo Meier was going to be somebody different than he actually is. And yeah, I don't feel that way. I think he's kind of giving you what you should expect. He's going to have some of these stretches where he goes 5 games without scoring a goal. And you're going to have to be okay with that if you're going to continue to roster Timo Meier. All right, back to the comments. Let's see where we left off. Armin, any of these catch your eye in Cupful? Only got 2 4D. Stamkos, Coronado, Nelson, Devontae, Sanheim, Forsling, Perek, Fowler, Romana, Byram, Zucker. I mean, nobody's jumping off the page there, I guess. I would like to be more excited about some of those names, but it's hard to be at this point. I would still give Stamkos a shot, maybe. I'd still give Nelson a shot, maybe. I'd still give Coronado a shot, maybe. Those are the guys that, you know, if things started to break right, could actually do something for you. The other guys are a little bit more low ceiling kind of plays. Probably, though, my honest answer, I'm just going with schedule. Whatever fits in my lineup, whatever gets me more games played this week, whatever projects to get me more fantasy points this week, I'm just going to go that route and see where it goes from there. Who's the heck has this been? Ben Kindell kid? Yeah, really good stuff from him for sure. I don't know that I'm ready to get excited about it for fantasy just yet, but yeah, it's a look. I'm not gonna poo-poo it too much either. We've seen stranger things for sure. Michael asks a Zurgi question. Wins, goals against average, save percentage. Decord, Saros, Vladar, or half of the Greaves, Mers, or Yari Shilov's tandem. Probably still going Decord there. Wins, goals against, save percentage. Yeah, I think it's still Decord there for me. But very close between him and Saros and Vladar at the moment. Vladar had a little bit of a hiccup there against the Leafs on Saturday and was beat in the same spot over the blocker, I think on 3 of the 4 goals, if I remember correctly. So that's a little bit concerning. I wonder if the rest of the league is getting a little bit more of a book on him, where they just probably didn't feel like they had to in the years past, where he wasn't a goaltender that people were worried about. So maybe there is something to that, maybe not, but it's at least something to consider. Who can I trade for Miller and Point? Both looking to get rid of one. I wouldn't trade either of them at this point. Linus Skidmark, very good. Very good. Blake would really like that one. Blake, if you're listening, instead of Linus Ullmark, it's Linus Skidmark. Trade for Reinhardt. I would love to. Cody, maybe look at Luke Evangelista. He's going to have a career year, but still struggling to be fantasy relevant. I picked up Evangelista in one spot this week, Deep League. Yeah, he was getting a look. The Nashville Predators kind of divvied up their power play units. And yeah, you could do worse than take a look at Luke Evangelista this week and just see where things go. He's had some potential. He's had some flashes under the hood in years past, but never been able to put it all together for any extended stretch. So yeah, I don't mind Evangelista. He had a few nice games in recent memory here. The ice time ticked up a little bit for a short period there. Yeah, the underlying numbers don't look great, but he does have 3 points in his last 5 games. What's your rest of season projection for Benson? Without actually doing any math, just by like roughly estimating, I think I'd put him in the 55 to 60 point range rest of season. Thoughts on Ehlers? Mentioned him off the top. I'm not dropping him yet. I'm hanging on for another little bit here. I think it's just a new situation. He's got to get used to it there in Carolina. Thoughts on Demko in a Cats league? Wins, losses, goals against average, save percentage, shutouts because losses are Cat. Volume is not as valuable. That's very true. I think he's fine in that format, but there's a lot of goalies who are probably just as fine in that format, if that makes sense. So alternatives are Markstrom, Binner, Dobis, Yari, and Wool. Yeah, Markstrom's the only one I think I might move for, but that would be schedule dependent for me, so probably not this week with New Jersey's schedule not being so great. Brandon, with Zegras doing so well, does Michkov start getting fantasy points? Feels like he does better, but Zegras is actually the one getting the points. It's a valid question. They have played together a fair bit, but in this last game, Zegras ended up on a line with Dvorak and Tippett. I don't know what Rick Tocchet is going to do next game to try to exact some more offense out of this squad. They also played Zegras with Konecny and Couturier against the Flames there. So, yeah, there's a lot of different ways that this could go. Honestly, none of them right now are all that great looking for Matvei Michkov, though. What's your season projection for Brad Marchand? I think it's going to look better probably until Tkachuk comes back. Maybe beyond that if he continues to play on the top power play even when Tkachuk is back. I think rest of season point pace, call it 60 to 65. Dropped Mercer, 19th ranked in my league for streamer this week. Did I screw up? Got players like Rossi, Rielly, Cooley, Eklund on my wire. No, I think Mercer's having a hot streak. I'd be fairly surprised if he continued it for the whole year. I think the underlying numbers, if I remember correctly, still suggest, he's got a 67% IPP, which is higher than he normally runs, shooting 33%, and the on-ice shooting percentage is almost 19%. It's going to fall off for Dawson Mercer, so I would not feel bad about that. 69 viewers on the stream currently. Very nice. Please leave a like if you wouldn't mind. We've got a few more names here to get through. Artemi Panarin is a player that Blake and I talked about on the flagship show that just released this morning here on Monday. So you should definitely go back and check that out for our full thoughts. But basically, my takeaway was I think Panarin is the biggest buy low in the league currently, and I would be sending offers and have sent offers in a lot of spots. Leo Carlsson, also a player we talked about in that show. He's got 2 goals and 9 points in his last 5 games, 19 minutes a night. The on-ice expected goals for really nice here at 26th in the league in that stretch, now up to 16 points in 11 games, a 119-point pace for the youngster. Playing with Terry, getting to biz. I love Leo Carlsson right now. I don't know exactly how sustainable this is. He's just under 19 minutes average time on ice on the season. I think he's running a little bit hot, but it wouldn't be that surprising for him to run pretty hot for the year. So yeah, I think 70 points is probably the baseline projection with potential for point per game plus. Clayton Keller, 2 goals, 3 points in his last 5, over 18.5 minutes average time on ice, 134 shots per 60, 131 individual expected goals for per 60, and 79th in on-ice expected goals for per 60. 12 points in 12 games on the season. Clayton Keller is just fine. I honestly don't know what more to add to that. he's pretty much exactly where I thought he'd be at this point. He's gonna have a few stretches where he scores 3 points in 5 games. He's going to have a few stretches where he scores 8 points in 5 games, and it's all going to come out in the wash. I projected him for 87 points at the beginning of the year. I would not change my projection at this point. Jesper Bratt, just 2 assists in his last 5, 17 and a half minutes average time on ice, which is down and has been going down in recent games, which is very concerning, obviously, for Bratt managers. 95th shots per 60, 190th in individual expected goals for per 60, 12th in Corsi for per 60, but 123rd in on-ice expected goals for per 60. He's still on a point per game pace on the season overall, but obviously it's fallen off dramatically here in the last little bit. It is concerning because Sheldon Keefe has kind of shown himself to be a coach that really can't help himself when it comes to exacting his will on this team. And I understand that, like, probably the Devils have not brought their A game on every single night, and so he's trying to prove a point a little bit with these players. But to do it with Jesper Bratt, who's like, along with Jack Hughes and Nico Hischier, are like the guys who are going to get it done for you night in and night out. I just think that that's overcoaching, in my opinion, and Keefe has been guilty of that in the past as well. A couple of stars to round out the list here. Austin Matthews and Nikita Kucherov. Matthews just 2 goals and 3 points in his last 5. Kucherov 2 goals but 5 points in his last 5. Both of them 21 minutes a night or more. Matthews still ranks 16th in shots per 60, 22nd in individual expected goals for per 60, 60th in on-ice expected goals for per 60. And then Kucherov at 42nd in shots per 60, 86th individual expected goals for per 60, but 12th in on-ice expected goals for per 60. I would adjust my projection for Matthews at this point. I projected him for exactly 100 points, 50 goals, 100 points on the season at the start of the year, and I would adjust that down. He's had a really tough time generating offense at even strength, and it's a little bit hard to figure out. I think that it's a little bit to do with, it's definitely a little bit to do with Marner not being there, for sure. They haven't been able to find somebody to play well alongside him consistently, whether that be Matthias Michelli or Max Domi, or now Nick Robertson has actually looked the best the last little bit, and he's there again tonight, but at least they're getting pasted 3-0 by the Penguins currently, so that's probably about to change. I'm still kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop, it feels like, with Matthews. He had a goal there on Saturday that kind of felt like a vintage Matthews goal, like high in the slot and beats the goalie clean, bar down. So, yeah, that part, like, visually looks good, but he's got to start doing that more consistently. The chances are still there, which is what kind of makes you think that this can get back on the road, but I think I would be, if I was doing this projection over again today, I think I would still probably do it in a 45 to 50 goal range, but I'd be more in like an 85 to 90 point range instead of the 100 point range at this point in time. For Kucherov, I have no concerns. I don't know if anybody really does. He has only 10 points in 10 games to start the season, I guess, but I would not change anything about my Kucherov projection at the moment. All right, we'll close it out with a few more comments. Let's see where I have to get to here. Thoughts on Byfield for the rest of the season? I think Byfield's fine. He's an inconsistent player. Like, I know he's everybody's favorite breakout potential player, but he's inconsistent. He's been inconsistent for many years, and we've kind of explained it away as he's young. Well, the time is now, and he's still inconsistent. So, yeah, it might just be who he is. He might just be an inconsistent player for fantasy purposes. He's not a big-time shooter. He doesn't generate a ton of peripherals, and so he doesn't give you a lot when he's being inconsistent. Yeah, I don't think I would change a lot about my Quentin Byfield projection. People keep talking about, this is just like a gripe that I gotta get out there. People keep talking about, like, Kopitar, like, passing the torch to Byfield this year as if that didn't already happen last year. Like, I don't know what numbers people are looking at, but Like, Byfield had more time on ice than Kopitar last year, was used in more difficult situations a lot of the time as well. Like, yeah, the torch is already passed. I don't know what we're talking about here with Byfield versus Kopitar. That is a thing of the past, and I guess people still need a narrative, but those people are not like basing that in anything real. They're just going purely off vibes. So whenever I hear an analyst say something like that, I'm like, wow, so you just really haven't looked at this. You're just creating a soundbite here. Anyway, I don't know why that bugs me so much, but it has been something that's bugged me every time I've heard it. So I had to get that off my chest. Thanks for hearing me out. This has been my TED Talk. Josh, who do I trade Malkin for? Do I trade him if I can? Yeah, I mean, probably it's not going to keep up at this level for Malkin. So if you can trade him, I think that's probably a good route to go. I mean, aim high and start coming down. I would trade him for anybody. If you can get a player who has 70-point potential with good peripherals for Malkin, then yeah, I think I'd do that. Trying to think of a player that I would actually do it for that's kind of indicative of the line to cross here. But I'm kind of coming up with a blank at the moment. If one comes to me, I guess I'll have to let you know. Yeah, and nothing's really coming up for me at the moment. If something comes up, I definitely will let you know. But that's what I would be at least seeing what I might be able to get from Malkin at this point. Thoughts on holding Tuch in a 10-team points light bangs given his lack of power play 1? You don't have to in that particular situation, I don't think. Yeah, if there's good stuff out there on the wire, and there probably is in a 10-team, then yeah, I don't mind that. On another note, Dustall worth the ride given the Ducks' scoring chances against and tough teams this week and next. Yeah, I still think he's probably worth it. Probably depends a little bit on your format. If your format is relatively forgiving enough for goals against, then he's going to get a lot of starts. Mrazek has not been good, so it's been the Dostal show and will continue to be. Any idea why McTavish was going before Karlsson? All rankings in ADP preseason, mostly just preconceived notions and better peripherals, I guess. In some leagues that really matters. So, I mean, I had a better projection on McTavish than Karlsson to start the year, so you can count me in that camp too, I guess. But Karlsson has taken a big step this year, and he's been the one to get the big bump in ice time as well, which is going a long way towards Karlsson having the start that he's having for sure. Talking about the Mercer, no way Mercer keeps it up all season. Definitely agree there. Orlov, a decent D to roster. I'm surprised Chicago and San Jose not getting killed in plus minus. Yeah, I mean, he's fine in... I mean, it would have to be a 14-team league for me to feel like good about rostering Orlov. Probably can roster him in 12 teams, especially in weeks where San Jose has 4 games. But yeah, he's a borderline piece, I would say, in most leagues. Is it good to have 2 players of the same team? It can be. If they're really good players and they're playing together, then it can be nice to stack them up and kind of... when they score points, they're probably both scoring points at the same time, and so you can stack them up and kind of get big weeks that week if that's what you're going for. But it can also have the reverse effect. If nobody's scoring, then it's hurting both of them at the same time. So you kind of have to weigh that. In general, I would say a stack is a good thing, but you don't want to overstack either and end up with too many players from the same team. That ends up limiting your roster flexibility and probably creating more problems for yourself than it's worth. Brandon, how do you see Oilers' top 6 shaping up with Hyman on deck very shortly? Roslow's looking like he's fitting in nicely with Dry and or McDavid. Maybe the only one that can take Hyman off power play 1. Yeah, at this point, I don't know that it's guaranteed that Hyman goes straight back to power play 1. Power play was working with Tomasek in there. Now Roslovic is getting DeBiz in that spot. And yeah, they might just bring Hyman back a little bit slowly. That wouldn't be too shocking for me. So yeah, it's a little bit of a wait and see, obviously, but definitely something to look at. Buy low on Point? Yes, I would. I traded Scheifele for Point. It's an interesting one. They're probably pretty close. I'd be interested actually to see where my projections would have them. I think they were pretty close for me in projections, but yeah. Another buy low, sell high. I did Dorofeyev for Panarin. Love that. Rossi projection rest of season worth an add in 10-team Cats. 10-team Cats. I mean, for this week, it'd probably be okay. Minnesota has a good schedule this week. Some off nights. You can probably fit them in. But long-term hold, most likely not. Unless he's playing with Kaprizov at even strength and getting power play 1. And it really seems like he's not in the plans for power play 1 at this point. Thoughts on Luke Hughes? Do you prefer Chychrun or McAvoy in a points league? Thoughts on Luke Hughes? I think Luke Hughes needs the power play to really pop for fantasy. He's been fine, but he doesn't bring peripherals at all, and so that's obviously going to hurt you if he's not getting top power play, and he really hasn't been. So yeah, he's been fine, but more as a fourth defenseman. I mean, if he gets top power play, I do think that he could blow up and have a 70-point pace for the rest of the season. So that's what I'm holding out for in the spot where I've got Luke Hughes. Chychrun or McAvoy in a points league? Chychrun for sure. Would you trade Harley and Geeky for Dahlin in Bangers Cats League? Yes, I would. Schmaltz projection rest of season? Yeah, I'd probably put him back in that 70-ish point range, 65 to 70 maybe. It seems like he's putting himself back in the conversation, line 1, power play 1, and I don't know how much that's going to change, given it's going to take a long stretch of bad play now to undo all the goodwill he's built up with how hot he's been to start the season. So yeah, probably having him in that 70-ish point range rest of the season at this point, which is where he's been in seasons past. Keep Greaves over Gibson and UPL Cats. I predict Greaves is 1S soon. I don't know what 1S is, but I assume you're going for the A key right beside the S key. Yeah, I think I would keep Greaves over Gibson in UPL currently. How are you feeling about Protas rest of season hold? Good question. Let's throw him in here. Haven't done a deep dive on Protas in a little bit. 1 goal, 1 assist, 2 points in the last 5, 19 minutes a night. 191st shots per 60, 169 individual expected goals for per 60, 147 on ice expected goals for per 60. Yeah, I don't think Protas is a hold necessarily, but I don't mind it. Depends on your league for sure. 14-team league, yeah, you're holding. 12-team league is probably on the edge. Tofutomo asked the same question about having 2 players on the same team. Leo and Cutter saved my season so far. Yep, you can do that. Thoughts on Fantilli? Yeah, so Blake and I did talk about Fantilli in the flagship show, so go check that one out. But I am concerned, very concerned at this point. Jack Hughes or Kucherov? I'm taking Kucherov. How's Stamkos look under the hood? We can throw him in here, but spoiler alert, it's not great. 121st in shots per 60 and 76th in individual expected goals for per 60 is not bad. 50th on ice expected goals for per 60, but just over 17 and a half minutes average time on ice. No points in his last 5. It's not a good look. There's no two ways about it. It's not a good look for Stamkos at the moment. I think it gets better, but how much better is a real question. Harley, Tuck, and Barbashev versus Marchenko and Hudson. That is really, really dependent on your league settings. Yeah, super dependent on league settings. You talked about Bouchard yet? Is it too soon to call a bust? He's got 7 points in his last 5 games. Is that anybody's definition of a bust? I'd be pretty surprised by that personally. Nate, please rock just the stash for Movember. I would have marital issues if I did that, so I don't think I'll be doing that, unfortunately. Oliver says, thank you, sir. You're a goat. Appreciate everybody joining the stream. We made it through. We made it through all the comments. We made it through all of the most puzzling players league-wide. So I think that is going to be all that I've got for this episode. Hopefully it brought you some value, helped you get a little bit better at fantasy hockey today. All the advanced stats you see here and heard today came from Natural Stat Trick and 18 Skaters. Many thanks to Matt Creamer for supplying the music for the podcast. And that's it, folks. Much love.